Welcome to the 2021 Healing Guide for the Elder Scrolls Online. I'll be your host, Mistick Raven, and in this video, I will cover all the basics and the necessities for you to decide and choose which healer, which race is right for you. Hold on to your seats. It's going to be a good one. One of the most classic sets that we have in the game is the Worm Cult, and it gives recovery, max magicka recovery, and grants 145 magic recovery to you and up to 11 other group members within 28 meters of you. Another good set, Sanctuary. Sanctuary isn't a set that's typically used, but on healers like the Dragon Knight, it really magnifies its capability. It gives you max health, adds 4% healing taken, gives max magicka, increases your healing received by 10% for you and up to 11 group members within 10 meters of you. Really strong set for any class or new healer trying to find their way. The staple of most healing configurations will revolve around two sets. One being Spell Power Cure. It gives max magicka adds weapon and spell damage. When you overheal yourself or an ally, you give them major courage for 5 seconds. Now this increases their weapon and spell damage by 430. Really powerful set. Another set that really works good on the back bar is Olorime. This gives magical recovery, it gives minor aegis, it gives 129 magicka recovery. If you get the perfected, you'll get an additional 1096 max magicka, but that just adds a little extra towards your healing. But the most important thing, it does the same thing as Spell Power Cure. It's going to leave an effect on the ground that's going to give major courage for 20 seconds, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 430 for 20 seconds. The only difference of it is that this can apply to the entire trial group or large scale, where Spell Power Cure can only be applied up to 5 targets. Another possible alternative set to utilize is Zen. Zen is a really good set on support classes and can be applied to healers as well, especially if somebody's running Olorime. So if you have one healer utilizing Olorime, you can put the other healer in a set like Zen. The reason being is it's going to give you recovery, it's going to give you spell damage, it's going to give you magicka, but your light attacks apply the touch of Zen on enemies for 20 seconds. Enemies with the touch of Zen take an additional 1% more damage for each damage over time effect you've placed on them. Stone Talker is one of these sets that I'm still in the process of farming, and I really like this set. It gives recovery, it gives minor aegis, and it gives an additional magic recovery. Your fully charged heavy attacks place a soul bomb on your target that charges as the target takes damage. After 10 seconds, the bomb explodes, restoring 5% of the damage received to 12 group members. Jorvald's Guidance combos up so well with so many healers when they're going to apply any major buffs. It's going to give you recovery, 4% healing done, and while in combat, it's going to increase the duration of all major buffs, minor buffs, and damage shields you apply by 40%. Infallible Ether can be utilized on healers. Now, the biggest thing is a lot of people are going to be asking why. Well, the simple reason of it is it's going to apply minor vulnerability. There's only 3 classes that give that minor vulnerability initially within their toolkit. That's the Nightblade, the Warden, and the Necro. But if you didn't want to use a lightning staff and you wanted to use an alternative solution but still apply this status effect, sets like Infallible Ether is one of them. Another set besides Infallible Ether that will give you the same effect is Robo the Strategist or the Wise Mage. It has the same effect as Infallible Ether, just a lesser version of it. Kind's Win is one of my favorite sets to utilize on my Warden healer, or any healer that's going to use potions or major buffs. This set gives you magic recovery, minor Aegis, healing done, 4% healing done, adds magic recovery if you get perfected, but when you drink a potion or use a major buff on yourself or a group member, it creates a pool of Kind's Blessing for 4 seconds. This restores 420 stamina and magicka every second, and it can occur once every 10 seconds. Hollow Fang has been one of the newer sets I've been really loving on critical heal builds, such as my Nightblade or my Sork, or pretty much any healer you're going to take advantage of critical healing. This offers critical chance, max magicka, critical chance. Whenever you deal critical heal, damage a target, you spawn a ball of hemoglobin at their location. After 2 seconds, the ball explodes, restoring 1,750 magicka and applying minor vitality to you and your group members within 6 meters of the ball. Now, once again, this does have a limitation of how many it applies to. Okay. Sets like Hearseas is really great on Stamina Warden healers. I love it, but it can technically be utilized on any healer. Sure, it's going to go ahead and give you stamina recovery, but what this does is it offers 145 stamina recovery for you and up to 11 other group members. It's basically the Stamina's version of the Worm set. Set for healers these days is Kenra's Wrath. Now, the reason being is it's going to give you spell, it's going to give you critical, it's going to give you spell and weapon again. But when you deal damage with 5 light attacks or heavy attacks, it's going to grant you a stack of burning heat, giving you major berserk. Now, the reason being why this is a possible solution for healers is because it applies minor berserk to your group. A lot of the skills that we're more accustomed to for a healer is combat prayer. It applies minor berserk to group members. Now, the biggest thing about this is with sets like Kenra's Wrath, you don't need to utilize a heal like this. And classes like the Warden with Lotus Blossom really benefit from taking advantage of Kenra's Wrath. There's really only 3 monster sets I go for when it comes to PvE content. One is being Earthgore. Earthgore is a really great cushion monster set. It adds 4% healing done. When you heal yourself or a group member that's under 50%, you conjure a pool of blood underneath them, immediately removing all harmful area effects, so it has a cleanse, and healing the lowest health group member in the area after 2 seconds for 4,946. Every 2 seconds over 8 seconds. This effect can occur once every 20 seconds. It has a long cooldown, but in fights that are very hard hitting, it's literally a lifesaver. One of the more classic monster sets to go with as a healer is one of the easiest ones to obtain, and that's Sentinel of Razam Gaz. This gives you 4% healing done. When you heal yourself or an ally, you summon a Dwemin Spider that heals for 1,113 health and restores 125 magicka and stamina to you and your allies within 5 meters every second for 8 seconds. This effect can occur every 15 seconds. This is a great sustained set for groups, and it also has that healing effect. Symphony of Blades only needs to be utilized on one healer, but what it offers is detrimental to any group. It gives you a 4% healing done, and when you heal an ally who's under 50% of their primary resource, primarily, tanks or any class that's struggling, you grant them Meridian's Favor, which restores 570 magicka or stamina every second for 6 seconds. Now, this effect can occur once every 18 seconds. This is a great set for players who are struggling to sustain or tanks that need that extra sustain in those pinch moments. Let's talk about weapons. If you're going to use a set like Ola Rimaze, you can pretty much run any static configuration, like Spell Power Cure Worm. That's a great static setup, and it's pretty classic. But let's say you get Ola Rimaze, right? The Vitrin Shrine Perfected Resto Staff. This is amazing. It is one of my most favorite weapons as a healer. Why? It gives Max Magicka, and when I cast Force Siphon on a target within 18 meters, it causes a surge of magical energy to tether between you for 10 seconds. Casting Force Siphon on a target within 15 meters of you causes a surge of magical energy to tether between you for 10 seconds. Now, while the tether persists, you and your allies in the tether restore 175 magic and stamina every second. Now, this also stacks with the ability Siphon Spirit. Siphon Spirit applies minor magic steal, which restores 168 magicka every second when damaged. So a lot of healers will use Ellie Drain for the magic steal, but Siphon Spirits does the same thing. Add that with the Veteran Train Resto Staff, and there is no competition. A really good weapon for any healer is going to be Grand Rejuvenation. It's going to add Max Magicka. An initial heal of Grand Healing or Healing Springs invigorates you and group members affected for 4 seconds, restoring 117 magicka and stamina every second. This is a really great sustained weapon. So if you're going to use any other form of magic steal and you want to use another sustained set that's, you know, less detrimental in range capability, this is the weapon for you. Argonians make great healers. Life Mender, increase your healing done by 6%. Also, we're going to increase max health and max magicka. When we drink a potion, we also restore health, magicka, and stamina by 3,125. Every class that uses Argonian as a healer really is noticeable. The only class that kind of struggles with Argonian as a race for a healer is the DK. Not to say it can't be done, but the DK sometimes struggles with resource management, and it can be a little bit of a hindrance under Argonian. It can still be done, but it's very noticeable. So if you're going to use an Argonian as a DK healer, I recommend Recovery into your traits. Orcs, not as well known for their healing role, and I would suggest if you're going to pick an Orc to go with Stamina Warden Healer, but it's an option. It would give you max stamina. Not so good on Blade in that, but I wanted to show it off. It's going to give you max health, and it's going to give you weapon and spell damage. Plus, it's going to give you a very fast movement speed. The deal, though, is you're going to be very dependent on recovery. Khajiit makes an excellent healer as well. You're going to go ahead and get Robust, increasing health and stamina and magical recovery. You're going to get Lunar Blessing, which increases your max health, magicka, and stamina by 915, making glyphing a lot easier. And of course, we're going to get Feline Ambush, which increases our critical healing by 12%. If you're going to be a Khajiit and any healer, you're going to be dependent on the Thief Mundus and your primary weapon as Precise. Dunmer or Dark Elf can make excellent healers as well. Keep in mind though, they lack recovery. So that's very, very important. But when we get passives like Ruination, we increase what? Weapon and spell damage, which is going to increase our healing capability. Also, we're going to get max magicka and stamina. That's another boon for the Dunmer. Races that have innate reduction or recovery is really great. Races like Breton have reduced the magic cost of the ability by 7%. This allows me to need less recovery due to the fact that all of my abilities cost less. High Elves are really good. When you activate an ability, you restore 625 magic and stamina, whichever is the lowest. You get max magicka and you get spell damage. The problem of it is it doesn't reflect well into the character sheet, right? But given the fact that it does have max magicka and spell damage, I don't need to opt for increasing healing effects from the Mundus rather than restoring. So as a high elf, I would opt for a Mundus, like the Atronach. Let's talk about Mundus stones. There are 4 intricate Mundus stones for healers depending on your configuration, race, and build. One of the Mundus stones that's going to be very important is the Ritual. The Ritual increases your healing done based on how many pieces of Divine you have. The Thief is going to increase your critical rating, thus the higher chances you are to apply a critical healing effect. The Apprentice is going to increase your spell damage. So depending on your build, that like on Nightblades, if you have enough critical rating, you're going to want to take advantage of what? Damage effects like funnel health. The more you deal damage, the higher the healing capability from that spell. The Atronach is really good because it applies Magicka Recovery. So if you're struggling to sustain as a healer, the Atronach is a great Mundus for you. Now, if we're going to talk about the Warden healer, we have to go ahead and cover the stamina version of the Warden healer. Yes, Wardens can be stamina healers. And with sets like Kenra's and Powerful Assault, you have one of the best alternative healers in the Elder Scrolls Online. Powerful Assault is a Telvar set. You get down in Imperial Sewers. It's going to give you health, it's going to give you stamina, it's going to give you weapon and spell damage, but when you cast an assault ability while in group, you and up to 5 other group members gain 307 weapon and spell damage. What makes this great is it stacks with sets like Olorime and Spell Power Cure. Also, one of the best aspects is Kenra's. See, with the Warden, you can use an ability called Green Lotus, causing your light attacks to restore 1,454 health. Now, with Kenra's, what you're able to do is dealing damage with a light attack 5 times is going to apply Major Berserk to you, but it's also going to apply Minor Berserk to your party. So you don't need the combat prayer. So when I'm in the primary bar, I get the buff. Use a set like this and come back, and that's going to increase my healing capabilities. This also allows me to deal damage. Now, being a Warden, I can also use Growing Swarm for my minor vulnerability. Really, really nice. This also allows me to place AoE effects like Stampede, and since Powerful Assault is also a static set, I can use sets like Razor Caltrops, and I can use the Maelstrom Bow for Endless Hail. And then for our other healing slots, we're going to have Healing Thicket, we're going to have the Aggressive Warhorn, and of course we're going to have the Soothing Spores. And since Powerful Assault is static, we can get that buff constantly. Move in, and then we can heal as we do the light attack and apply the Minor Berserk to our party. DK is one of my most favorite healers. It has the capability of using abilities like Fragmented Shield to go ahead and cushion the blow and still apply the Major Mending for 16% for 6 seconds. Use abilities like Cauterize, and you're also going to give yourself your Major Prophecy, Major Savagery, and you're going to throw a 4,881 heal every 5 seconds automatically. AoEs like Cinderstorm control the placement of your Olorimes. So once I'm in combat, I can apply the stack with complete control. Burst healing, like Obsidian Shard, is amazing on the DK healer. And of course, because we need a utility, we're going to be very dependent on the energy orbs. Necromancer healers have some of the strongest heal over times in Elder Scrolls. It is one of the most versatile when it comes to group composition. The reason being because it's one of the only ways to acquire major vulnerability through Colossus. The DPS can do this as well as a Necro Tank, but when you run it consistently, it deals a ton of damage. So depending on how many Necros you have, you would make the alterations from abilities like Aggressive Warhorn for your Colossus. Abilities that like Intense Mender, Braided Tether, Expunge and Modify while slotted, the cost of all your abilities are reduced by 3%, is amazing. Now, depending on the configuration, you will be either dependent on Elemental Drain or Siphon Spirit for your minor magic steal. But given the fact that the Necro also has Agony Totem, you have a way of applying the minor vulnerability, thus making it very, very appealing for group composition. The only downside you're going to really have is making sure you utilize energy orbs for the utility. The Templar healer has one of the most broad toolkits when it comes to healing. And in Restoring Light, we have abilities like Breath of Life, Healing Ritual, Radiant Aura, Extended Ritual, which is a cleanse. This is really important, especially for the Sacred Ground. While standing in your own cleansing ritual, rune focus, or rite of passage area effects for up to 4 seconds, you're going to gain minor mending. Really, really great. Another thing that the Templars have is Radiant Aura. When other healers are more dependent on LE Drain or Siphon Spirit, the Templar is not. Matter of fact, the Templar's Radiant Aura has an AoE version to apply the minor magic steal. So when I come over to the mobs and I hit, they all will get the minor magic steal. Really good. Now, also one of the best features to the Templar healer is Purifying Light, because this is going to copy damage, but it's also going to put a hot on the target location. That's also going to activate the passive Illuminate, giving you and your party members minor sorcery, which is going to increase the spell damage of you and your party. To the Templar is the lack of hots. So I do always recommend Radiant Regeneration. Another factor that you're going to want to avoid is stacking Luminous Shards with Healing Orbs. They both share the same global cooldown. So if I'm not going to use Luminous Shards and I need another heal over time, I use Healing Orbs. If I need a stronger utility, I use Luminous Shards. The other factor that we want to take advantage of is always having a Lightning Staff on a Templar. Templars do not have access to minor vulnerability in their toolkit. Thus, when you apply Unstable Wall of Storms, you'll get the minor vulnerability right there. One of the most underestimated yet strongest burst healers in the game is the Sorcerer Healer. The Sorcerer Healer is by far one of the best healers with Summon Twilight Matriarch. It deals damage, but the insane burst heal it gives is uncomparable. The problems with the Sorcerer Healer is the lack of heal over time. But with abilities like Energy Orbs and Siphon Spirit, you can pretty much go ahead and exclude those weaknesses. Another thing that the Sorcerer Healer has advantage of is applying effects like Exploitation, which gives Minor Prophecy. Now the DPS version also does this as well, but what we ended up doing also is using Empowering Ward, which gives us and our party members Minor Intellect. Tomb. And we have complete control of placement. Really, really good. Love the capability of the Sorcerer Healer in Elder Scrolls. Let's go over the Nightblade Healer, one of my most beloved healers in Elder Scrolls Online. The Nightblade Healer really benefits from the siphoning tree, especially when you take a look at Soul Siphoner. Increase your healing done by 3% for each siphoning ability slotted. Abilities such as Sap Essence deals AoE damage, applies major brutality and sorcery, and heals at the same time. Refreshing Path give major expedition, apply a heal over time effect. Skills like Lotus Fan can apply minor vulnerability to the entire group, while other skills in Assassination can also increase our critical rating for each ability slotted. One of the most powerful HOTS for the Nightblade Healer is the funnel health. The Nightblade Healer is very dependent on dealing damage to increase the funnel health capability. But also you have morphs like Shadow Cloak that also can apply Dark Cloak for the tank or the healer. And then you have Malevolent Offering in its morphs, Shrewd Offering, reducing the magic cost and the duration of the health cost, or Healthy Offering, which grants you a minor mending. But keep in mind, this is at a detriment to you losing health. That's why your heal over times are very important. So when we take a look at the Nightblade, we have very fast healer. That applies a ton of nice effects. It is definitely a healer worth exploring in the Elder Scrolls. Last, but definitely not least, is the Warden Healer. The Warden Healer is a synergy beast. When we take a look into the green balance, we have abilities like Budding Seeds. We have abilities like Lotus Blossom. We have Living Vines and its morphs, Leeching Vines and Living Trellis. We also have Nature's Grasp, which gives us Bursting Vines or Nature's Embrace. One of the best things also is Enchanted Growth. This gives us also a minor intellect and minor endurance, increasing magic and stamina recovery by 15%. Add effects like Lotus Blossoms, and now our light and heavy attacks also help do the healing. Now pair this up with sets like Kind's Win and Blue Betty, and now you can apply the effect and still maintain a specialized weapon like the Master Restoration Staff. It is an amazing healer, but one of the limitations it has is its cone shape healing effects. This is why Lotus Blossom is very detrimental, and given the fact that it also has in its toolkit a form of minor vulnerability in the animal companion with Fetcher Flies. So once again, this healer is simply amazing. Amazing if you want to go ahead and have a nice synergy and utility healer. I want to thank you guys today for taking the time and watching this video. I hope it was educational, because for me, it was a blast. As always, I'm Mistick Raven, This is Mistick's MMOs. The only question you have to ask now is which healer is right for you in Elder Scrolls Online. Have a nice day.